This is how I made a mascot horror game in 1 year. After seeing games like Playtime and Garten of Banban get so popular, I decided that I needed to make my own. Mascot horror is a term that refers to video games that are centered around a marketable mascot, usually trying to kill you in the actual game. These types of games specifically market towards children so they can sell their plushies and merch and get even more money. They care more about the money made behind it. But you know what? So do I. So today I'm going to be showing you how I made my own indie game to hopefully convince you to buy it once this video is over. And like and subscribe so I can grow this channel. So how exactly did I do it? I started off making the player, which was pretty easy with Unreal Engine's pre-made template. I also wanted the player to have something to carry throughout the game, so I gave them a camera. This camera would be essential later in the game. Another thing I needed was a setting that the game takes place. And like every other mascot horror game, it has to be an ungodly large catacomb-like facility, miles underground. I also wanted this to take place in a nuclear power plant, so I threw that in there as well. Eventually, I had the basis for this game. Like any indie horror game, I needed really confusing lore that game theory can find, so I came up with a way to put markings around the game that would tell the player hints about what happened. I called these markings Hollow Splash and made it that the player can only see them through the camera, so it wouldn't be too obvious. You might be thinking, this is great and all, but where's the actual mascot of the game? So Goose Studios came up with Gassy the Gas Man, a cartoon character that would be on posters throughout the facility and would give employees safety reminders. I made this 3D model of him that would try to kill the player. If you're wondering how Goose Studios came up with this, I interviewed him about it and he said this. Goose, how exactly did you come up with Gassy the Gas Man?
Well, Gassy the Gas Man was really born when I was sitting in class one day, and I was trying to think what would be a good thing to call the mascot from the game, and so I decided on Gassy the Gas Man because, you know, it has a little ring to it, you know, Gassy the Gas Man. So I sat down at the computer and I built Gassy the Gas Man on posters, definitely not using AI or anything. I would never do that, but safety's key. Like and subscribe, Gassy the Gas Man.
So let's get back to the actual game. So far we have a creepy setting, a mascot that looks friendly but actually tries to kill you in the game, and a very convoluted story. Now I just need a game mechanic, but I decided to do something a little different. I wanted a puzzle device that hasn't been done before in any game. So I came up with the Shine Beam, a device which can move a light source from one point to another, which replaces the flashlight that's used in most other horror games. I also made something called a Shine Charge, which was a light the player could shoot as normal, but when it was on, it would activate something like a door or a scissor lift. I use this to make different puzzles around the game because every mascot horror game needs a puzzle mechanic. At this point, the game was just a walking simulator with puzzles, so I needed something else to spice it up. I wanted some sort of movement mechanic that the player could use to get around. So eventually I came up with the Pulse Anchor, a device which the player could activate with their Shine Beam, and it would pull them towards it. However, with this, the player could also fall from really high places. The problem with this is that I really didn't want to add fall damage at this point in the game, so I decided that I would just leave it. You may ask me, how are you going to have a game without fall damage? That's not realistic at all. That's why I made the Repulse Anchor. In the game lore, the Repulse Anchor was a device that employees would carry so they wouldn't get hurt while falling. It used advanced orbital technology to slow the employee's descent or something. I don't know, I just didn't want to add fall damage. So, with Hollow Splash, the Shine Beam, Gassy the Gas Man, the Pulse Anchor, and a huge underground facility, the game was almost perfect. Almost. See, there was one thing that I was missing. The game wouldn't be complete without this, and that is an announcer-type voice that would talk to the player through pre-recorded messages and audio tapes.
Introducing the Repulse Anchor, made with advanced orbital technology. Never worry about falling again.
But the only problem with this is that I need a voice actor. I can't do it because my voice sounds like a child, but I don't have money to pay for a professional voice actor. If I was gonna make a mascot horror game, I needed this. So I needed to find someone who could voice act for me for free. Eventually I found my answer. I asked my school tech guy, Owen Craig, if he'd do it, and he said yes. So I wrote up some scripts on what he'd say, then brought it to school for him to do his lines. I interviewed him about this, and he said this. What's up, guys? I'm with Owen Craig, and we're just gonna be asking him some questions. So, why did you decide to be in the game?
Well, because you asked me, and I said, "Are you sure you want me to do it?" And you're like, "It'll be great, trust." And I said, "All right, sounds good." We had an acoustically dampened room, and I think it was recorded on a iPhone 6. Yeah, but it was good. Some of them I think I might have done over Discord.
So I took his lines and I put them in the game in forms of audio logs and announcer type voices that would automatically play. I now had a completed mascot horror game, equipped with a huge underground facility, a marketable mascot, an announcer voice that talks to the player, and hidden convoluted lore. I mean, it's perfect. So what do I name this masterpiece? Well, after much thought, I decided to call it Basics in Intermediate Filmmaking. What the f? That might be one of the worst choices of my life. But you know what? It's too late to change it now. And now the game's complete. If you want to play this game for yourself, you can get it on Steam and itch.io, link in description. I asked some of my players how they enjoyed it, and this is what they said. So, what did you think of Gas the Gas Man as a mascot?
I didn't realize that the guy in the poster was the same guy in the tunnel. Because the guy in the poster was all like cute, but the guy in the tunnel kind of scared the f out of me.
You mentioned the tunnels, so how do you think of the aspect of the game itself, the aesthetic? Was it similar to Poppy Playtime, or
I'll give it better.
how does this game compare to games like Portal 2?
Honestly, you play Portal, you're not gonna piss your pants. You play this game, you're gonna piss your pants. I think that's where the attraction lies.
How is the soundtrack of the game? Because I composed that myself in FL Studio, so what did you think of it?
The soundtrack was fire. I didn't even believe you composed it when I heard it. Yeah, I honestly thought you downloaded it. Definitely played some big title games with worse soundtracks. So for an indie game, definitely 10 out of 10. Absolutely.
How is the camera aspect of the game? I mean, Portal has a portal gun, and Poppy Playtime has the grab pack. Was the camera good?
No, the camera's perfect. I loved going around the little pylon things. Also, just like shooting sparks everywhere with left click was kind of fun. No, game's good. I'm glad you added a sensitivity slider. During the beta, I was a beta tester. That had me wanting to do terrible, awful things.
So, do you take any inspiration from the in-game Owen Craig? Does any of that reflect onto you?
I actually rewrote my entire persona to be just like him.
So, what would you rate the game on a scale from 1 to 17?
The non-scary parts were actually a lot of fun. I don't feel like I missed out on any of the lore because I said all of it. So that's down to a 15. Wait, 17? 16. What?
It's 1
how
out of
many?
7. So, what would you rank Basics in Intermediate Filmmaking on a scale from 1 to 12?
Honestly, I'd give it a 12, because even though I've finished playing it, I kind of want to play it again. And, when you come across a really good game, it's like or a good movie, you want to forget it so that you can have the experience all over again. I just loved it. Oh, great mascot, but really creepy as well. It was, the placement was everywhere, and I didn't originally know if the voice on the intercom was Gassy or if it was Owen. It was ominous, because it's almost like you don't really understand. I didn't know enough about him to trust him, but I knew that I wanted to be able to trust him because I felt so alone.
You mentioned Owen Craig. How did he was sort of like the announcer type voice that would talk to you throughout the game. How well did that mix with the atmosphere?
I got GLaDOS kind of vibes from Portal 1. If you've played it, initially I thought, this recorded voice, it's just standard lines. Yeah. And then I was like, there's more human. This is so much more human than a pre-recorded voice. Is he watching me? Is he following me somewhere through video cameras or whatnot? And I think the timing for every time you did place those recordings or his dialogue was wonderful. It was a perfect balance of just kind of alluding to something horrific going on.
Do you think it started off a little bit too slow, like walking simulator type? Do you think that
Personally, I don't have that opinion, yeah. I don't share their opinion. You're exploring this facility. The length at which it took for me to actually get to, I guess, the vent chase where it was building up then, that whole period of time, there was just such a build-up of suspense. I don't think it was a walking simulator. I enjoyed how long it took because it was suspenseful. There was so much to learn about that I don't think it was boring at all, or that there was not really anything going on. There was a lot going on.
I'm glad you were looking around a lot. Some people, they didn't look at the tutorial posters, and then they didn't know how to use it, and then they were complaining that I didn't explain it well.
That's their fault. I do pay attention, but yeah, those people that just rush into a game and don't look at anything and then go, this was there was nothing going on, I didn't understand how to do it. Well, it's your own fault for not reading, you fool.
I think this is probably the question everyone wants to know. If Holosplash was real, would you drink it?
Probably with vodka, yeah.
So, you played Basics in Intermediate Filmmaking. Summarize your thoughts on your experience.
Made me jump out of my seat, made me cry a little. It's actually a pretty cool experience. New mechanics I haven't seen before. The camera thing is pretty cool.
What did you think of Holosplash?
Holosplash? I thought it was alright. I didn't see it used too much. If it was used a bit more for more, I don't know, references, secrets. Maybe if it let you drink the Holosplash for an ending.
So, out of the mascot horror games that already exist, how do you think this ranks among them?
You cut out a little, but I'm assuming you're asking me to compare Biffum to those games, in which case I say it's better than any of those.
Better than Poppy Playtime?
Yes.
Who are we interviewing?
Hi, I am the Solo Goldfish. Subscribe. I'm really close to 100. Please, I beg.
So, you played the game, yeah?
Yeah, I played the game.
What would you rate it on a scale from 1 to 10?
Scale of 1 to 10, I would say a 5, but that's mainly because of it was just like not optimized for my machine. It was very stuttery. It was difficult to like aim at shit.
We'll round to a 10.
Did like puzzles. Puzzles though.
Overall, in the mascot horror genre, what would you rate this among other mascot horror games such as Poppy Playtime, Garten and Banban?
Garten and Banban obviously being R1 and original FNAF being like 10. I would probably like Poppy Playtime. I really like the like style of.
What do you think of Hollow Splash?
Hollow Splash, man, I personally thought that was pretty cool. I did like it, like looking through the little camera in order to figure out like extra stuff, like giving hints and stuff like that. I did like. Still not sure why some of it is darker. I assume it's supposed to be like.
So a little bit of backstory. That darker was just convoluted lore for Matt Pat to find. Well, that's just how the Hollow Splash is sometimes.
But like the atmosphere was really good. It was way too dark a lot of the time.
Would you think that this is better than Poppy Playtime, or worse?
I'd probably say worse. That's just because you don't have like the funding they do.
Well, guys, you heard it yourself. If you want to see me make a game that's better than Poppy Playtime, you can support me on Patreon so I can get more funding and make even better games. Or just like and subscribe to boost my channel. And again, if you want to play this game for yourself, you can get it on Steam and itch.io. I'll leave the links in the description. If you really enjoyed, you can support me on Patreon. Currently, I have no Patreon members, but hey, that means you can be the first one. So make sure to become a member to get exclusive content and maybe like devlogs and little games that I made and other stuff. Well, I mean, there's nothing on there right now because I don't have any Patreon members. But if you're the first one, then I'll remember you if I get famous.